What's up? What's up? What's up, everyone? It is Monday. It is 8:30. That means it is time for Conversations with Teresa. I am so happy you decided to join. You guys know me. Like, I get excited very easily, but I got some good reason to be excited today, especially besides it was just a really nice day here in New England, or at least the Boston area. um, we have an opportunity to have back in our presence Dr. Laura Duncan. And she has, I think I mentioned this before, but there are some people you just click with like real quick, real easy. I think Laura's going to be like my bestie because it's easy. I love easy. And Laura comes to us as a certified menopause specialist. All right. And so she know a lot about a lot. And especially for us during this time. And I have just, I'm excited about tonight. I'm excited about what we're going to talk about. And then I have some news at the end that I can't wait to share with you guys. I almost let it out, but I'm going to wait to the end to talk about it. So, hi, Dr. Laura.
Hi, thanks for having me back. It's nice to see you again.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I hope you had a great day today.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Again, like all the rain and the green, just feels like a whole awakening. It's great.
That's what I'm talking about. Oh, I love it. I love it.
Comes out and you can't look at it. It's so bright and all the colors were so vibrant. Just felt like alive. Wow. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. So we get a chance to, when I was talking to Dr. Laura earlier, I was saying, oh, maybe we could talk about this. We could talk about this, and then we started talking about, should we talk about symptoms? And, because we got them, right? But menopause, perimenopause, it is more than symptoms. There be some stuff that's going on in our amazingly wonderful bodies that God has given us. And we are going to talk about that. We're going to talk about kind of like from the beginning. We have this whole thing called puberty, right? And we go through our changes and things like that. But then we think it just stops until perimenopause. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on right in between all of that stuff. And it's not just when we're 40 or 50. And so Dr. Laura is going to walk us through. She's going to introduce us to our ovaries. How about that?
Sounds like
that's what I should have named it. Meet your ovaries.
Right. We should do that. Our pediatricians should do that.
Right? That would be awesome. We could start something here. So tonight, Dr. Laura is going to talk to us about our ovaries and the effects that it has on our life, but really how it also affects us in the stage in perimenopause and menopause. So Dr. Laura, you can take it from the beginning.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, Teresa. And I'm actually really excited to talk about the ovary and start from the beginning, because a lot of times when people come to me and they're so symptomatic, we're just jump right in to race ahead and get them feeling better. And I feel like, we have missed so many opportunities in this woman's life to talk about what is happening to them from when they go through puberty all the way up until when, now that when I'm seeing them, and I feel like, God, we missed so many opportunities so that women could take control. And and we're good at taking control. So we should just be informed, right?
Right.
So when I think about the ovaries and I think about perimenopause and menopause, and one of the questions that people always ask is, what's the difference between perimenopause and menopause? And that's when I take that opportunity and I come at this a little differently. I'm a little unconventional.
Okay.
I like to tell people, like, let's go back a little bit further. Let's think about our ovaries as a functioning organ in our bodies from the day that we're born. And
Okay.
what, unfortunately, what we're seeing is like, okay, we say that perimenopause by definition, I mean, menopause by definition is when when you haven't had a period for 1 year. And that's
Right.
like one thing that our ovaries are responsible for. But it has an outsized role in our minds about that's what it does. It gives us it controls our periods.
Right.
And it's like saying our thyroid is involved in our heart rate. Our thyroid hormone deals with our heart rate. And that's like dismissing the fact that the thyroid, it produces a hormone that also helps us with our temperature regulation, helps us with our metabolic system, helps us with our weight, helps us with our skin and our hair. And anyone who's had thyroid problems can tell you.
Yeah.
It's not just your heart rate. It's not just your, whatever, energy level. So similarly, our ovaries are an organ that produce hormones that have a role in our life all along. The reason why I think we focus on the ovaries and it's our reproductive life is because it's so obvious. We're, to be blunt, we bleed between our legs. That's huge. It's a little crazy making when you think about it. Like, we're like, oh yeah, that happens. And it is actually quite remarkable that happens and that we kind of are like normalized to it, and thank goodness.
Right,
but
right.
You can imagine if you didn't know anything about it at all going into puberty, what is happening to me? Was that like the movie Carrie or something? I don't remember that movie, but I have this like recollection that she has her first period or something. I don't know.
Oh my God. I never did horror movies. I'm so scared of them.
And it's a horror movie. So there you go. There you have it.
Right. That's true.
So we get kind of caught up in that. It's very dramatic. And we know that is so important around whether you make a baby or not. But we are way more than baby making machines.
Right.
And so that the whole like having your period, whether you're having your period or not, whether you get pregnant or not and carry a pregnancy, that is just one part of it. And when it comes and when it goes is only one part of what the ovaries functioning is. And sometimes it's all erratic and we can't really just know whether our ovaries are working right or not. So there are times when you are having really heavy periods, or there are times when you don't have a period and you're not pregnant, and these are telling us that certain things are happening to us and our ovaries are being affected by it. So people who don't keep up their, if they don't have enough caloric intake or enough protein to support them, or they are burning through all their energy, their ovaries shut down and they cannot have a period from that.
I did not know that.
But what else happens when you don't have a period is these women who don't have a period, if they are like running and have anorexia and are really like nutrient deficient, their bones will thin. They can get cardiac abnormalities where they're having irregular heartbeats.
Wow.
They'll have strong mood problems going on. That's all tied in together. So it's not like the bones are just thinning because you're not getting enough nutrients. It's literally not being supported by the estrogen because our ovaries aren't producing the estrogen.
Okay. So that part I get, right? But I wouldn't have put it together, right? Because in perimenopause, we talk a lot about estrogen and lowering it and the bone mass and all of that stuff, but I wouldn't have necessarily thought to, like you say, go back to the beginning, to go back to the ovaries and, you know,
Yeah,
yeah.
and so we can see people being set up for problems with their ovaries when they go through puberty and through their 20s, in like polycystic ovarian syndrome and endometriosis, infertility. All of these things are kind of a sign of the health of our ovaries in general. And when our ovaries are not healthy, even at that age, we will have consequences. The way that we think about people in menopause having consequences. So,
Okay.
we should be paying attention to symptoms that come up, because it could have an impact on our bone health later in life, or on our metabolic life, giving us, glucose, insulin insensitivity, and high glucose that leads to prediabetes with PCOS. So paying
Wow.
attention to how well our ovaries are working can really help us understand how the rest of our bodies are working. We have
So that's
that really
wow.
great thermometer with that.
Yeah. So, and
And the kids
I
these days, Teresa, I don't know about you, but the kids these days, they do all this cycle tracking, or oh
mhm.
god, I'm blanking on it, but they really know their cycles. They know what's
Right.
happening in their body, and they're
Yeah.
managing it with their. They know that they need to eat more protein during this part of the month, and they know that they need to take it easy on their exercise during this part of the month, and they're.
Good for them. I didn't know none of that.
Yeah. So hope.
Did know. I did know though, when I was, around my period, I always wanted steak or burger.
Okay, because you were probably a little anemic.
Right? Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. But I didn't know that until later, right? I just knew that's what I wanted. I didn't know, like, literally probably until like I was probably about 40, that I realized that my body was always giving me clues to something,
Yes.
always giving me clues,
I know, right?
So
You're too busy to pay
whether,
attention.
right. So even if it were things like, like you eat something and it doesn't settle right with you, or you drink something, you feel a certain way, like that's your body telling you, like, you probably don't need that, or you need more of something, or whatever. But it was just like, oh, I just don't like it. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it was
Yeah,
really
and I think sometimes what happens is sometimes it can creep up on us, and it happens with this is what perimenopause is. It's kind of like it tiptoes in, and you're like what is it, like putting the frog in the boiling water? You like put him in the water and you turn the heat up, and it like doesn't recognize that the water is getting hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter. And that's kind of what perimenopause feels like, is like, oh, I'm not feeling quite myself today. And then like 6
mm,
months down the road, you're like, I don't remember when the last time I felt like myself is, but this is
yeah,
my new normal, I guess. And you
right,
don't necessarily aren't all of a sudden, like when you get the flu, like vomiting and high temperatures
right,
so
right.
severely that you can identify that something really drastic has changed. Okay,
Mm,
so let's go back to now we're in our, we've had puberty, we're in our 20s, we may or may not have normal menstrual cycles. We may have other conditions around it. We may have um, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, also really important to be thinking about.
what is that?
We're put on oral contraceptive pills. This is, I didn't mention this before, but this is something that is a little mind-blowing to me, because I didn't realize. And I obviously went to medical school and did residency, and we talked a lot about all of these things,
Hmm.
but I didn't actually realize that birth control pills are synthetic estrogen and progesterone that are supra potent. They are supra physiologic. They are very, they work, their intention is to shut our ovaries down completely.
What?
Yeah. And what happens instead is it now says you just go to bed, and your estrogen and progesterone are circulating around in your blood, and it sends a message to your brain. We have enough estrogen and progesterone. We have enough. and then all the other things happen that are good for your bones and your heart and everything. That's good. But you shut your ovaries down. And what you do not have in your birth control pill is testosterone. So when people are put on birth control pills, their libido can go down, but their muscle mass can also go down. It's just kind of fascinating because we just think the ovary does estrogen and progesterone, and if we're giving it to them in a pill, and the brain says, "Wow, okay, I guess we got enough," the ovaries don't need to work at all.
Wait a minute.
It's intended to shut your ovaries down.
Okay. So,
right?
Walk me through this. Walk me through this again. So, here's my TMI. Been on birth control since I was about 14 years old.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
You know what? It was a thing. It was a thing. It was what we did. It was what we did. It was the best that we had at the time, but we deserve better. We definitely deserve better. And I don't know. I mean, right now, I think the current better is a Mirena IUD. And when you start having your period, if it's heavy, irregular, you are sexually active, the Mirena IUD is what I would recommend. But
although I got pregnant out of my IUD.
Oh, you're special. I think I'm going to consider that immaculate conception. It doesn't happen to many women. It's supposed to be 99%, 99.9%.
Can I? Okay, I know off topic, but when I went, so I go in. I'm on the Mirena. I go into my my OB, and she's like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "I'm pregnant." She was like, "What? You're on the thing?" I was like, I know. So my doctor at the time, she had been in practice for, I want to say 30 some odd years, right? Not quite 40, but 30 some odd years. She said that in the last week, that week that I was there, another woman came in. This has never happened in her 30 some years, who also got pregnant while she was on the Mirena.
Wow.
She was like, what? She was like, 30 some odd years.
Maybe,
never happened.
And you may, I don't know, I'm sure you talked to her again after that, but probably another person came in the following week. It's kind of crazy in medicine. It happens like that, where you're like, oh my gosh, I just had a young woman on, who had a pulmonary embolism in there. And you're like, well, where did that happen? Why did that happen? And then the next week you're like, oh my gosh, you would not believe I had another pulmonary embolism. And the next thing you know, it's 3. So they come in 3s. So maybe that was her 3 that she got.
I hope not. But anyway,
the universe pulses like that. Okay, so so we're back at the using these birth controls pills versus an IUD when you're trying to manage the reproductive function and or the side effect of the reproductive function of a period. The period, we get ready for a pregnancy. Every month we get ready for a pregnancy. And if it doesn't happen, our hormones drop and we shed the lining of our uterus. And that is like kind of the side effect of not having a pregnancy.
Right.
So you can try and manage that when that doesn't go well with hormones. But those hormones, so you were on it since you were 14. They can, if you're on those hormones for 20 something years, you can imagine your ovaries go to sleep and they're not easy to wake up. When you stop those hormones, your ovaries are like, well, wait a minute, I haven't been making estrogen and progesterone or testosterone for that matter.
Right.
For 20 years. I haven't been, because you've been taking it by mouth. You gave it to me. So it told me you fired me. We fired our ovaries.
Wow.
And, so it's okay because we have the estrogen and progesterone that's managing our menstrual cycle, our reproductive health, as well as the rest of our body.
Yep.
But unfortunately, when we don't stay on those pills forever, one, two, they don't provide everything that the ovaries, they don't do the testosterone.
Interesting.
So,
and like I was on it forever, right? Ever, but not this conversation.
no, I know. Well, yeah, don't get me started on all the conversations we don't have about birth control pills, because we just so desperately don't want the woman who wants birth control to not take it. We're like, you know what? If I told you all the potential side effects, you might not ever take your pill, and that would be disastrous for you, is what you're telling me. You want this, so I want this for you.
Right.
So, wow. Yeah. So here we are in our 30s. We've been on birth control for 15 years, maybe. And we might stop it, get pregnant. But all of a sudden, even if we're still on those birth control pills, we start to not quite feel like ourselves. And we're so wrapped up in postpartum and raising a young family and starting your career and moving and all the things. We're like, well, of course I'm tired and cranky and I hurt all over. Like, of course. So those things, until hot flashes come in, all of those things you can just explain away with like, my fault, I'm not taking good care of myself. My fault, I don't drink enough water. My fault, I'm not eating well. My fault, I stay up too late. And, like all the things that they all contribute, but we think that it's because of our own volitional choices, that we're too lazy to feel better.
Yeah, no, it's true. Absolutely.
But what's happening is in our mid-30s, and we all know this, because if you get pregnant in your mid-30s, what does your OBGYN say to you?
High risk pregnancy.
High risk pregnancy. Yeah, you are advanced maternal age. And maybe I mentioned this last time, but that's when we for some reason just went like this. We're like, oh, well, I'm advanced maternal age. I'm young enough to still have a baby. Don't talk to me like that. That's rude. But then we've like lulled ourselves into believing that we're not going to get old, that's not going to happen soon. And it's happening. It's happening right then in our mid-30s. So some people are like, I can't be in perimenopause, or I can't be in menopause. I'm only 48. Like, that's crazy. I'm only halfway through my life. Yeah. But that's not the reality. The reality is that our ovaries, they have a time. It's like kind of set a clock. And when they say your clock is ticking, those ovaries.
Biological clock is ticking from my cousin.
It does, no matter what we like to think about it. So those ovaries will inevitably start to, in your mid-30s. I mean, there's exceptions always, but in your mid-30s, we can all expect something to happen where we feel differently, because our ovaries are going to stop functioning at that same level. And everybody's symptoms are going to vary. And as it turns out, when that happens, losing your period is not the first thing that happens. So when you start to lower your hormone level, you're still able to have that period. And that's because any amount of estrogen will cause that endometrial lining to build up. And if your progesterone's not steady, if it's still fluctuating, wherever you're fluctuating, whether you're fluctuating high or kind of low, you will have a period. But your total hormone level will be much different over the years, starting mid-30s. And all sorts of symptoms can come up then.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Why? I think I might have just answered it. But why do you think we don't talk about this in our 30s? Why are these conversations not happening just with our our regular, I was about to say pediatrician, but our regular doctor. So not even just the OB, right? Because it almost seems like that should be happening with OB, but I know that they're focusing on babies and stuff like that. But why don't we talk about this more often? Why doesn't it come up? Why do we wait? Why does the medical world wait until the perimenopause, menopause stage to start having another conversation about hormones? We get in puberty and then nothing.
I know, it's a really good question. I think that maybe the word that came to your mind was misogyny. That's the word that came to my mind. It's alive and kicking, and women can be misogynist too. And when I say that, I mean that there's like this, like, buck up, lady, come on, you can do it. I went through it. We can still do that to each other, in addition to the fact that we didn't learn about it in medical school and residency for all sorts of reasons. But misogyny is kind of like at the heart of it, because really all that we're baby making machines. We'll focus a lot on that menstrual, so get that menstrual cycle regular and get on your pill so that you don't get pregnant until you want to get pregnant, and then do all these things when you get pregnant. Like I bet you could have more primary care doctors telling you what deli meat and cheese is not to eat in your 30s in case you are pregnant than what's really happening to your ovaries at that time. And how just the fact that if you do nothing and you let your ovaries just kind of hang out and start declining, that has health impacts that last the rest of your life. Not to mention all the other emotional stuff that comes up where you're like, I'm anxious all of a sudden. Like, why? Why are you having this symptom right now? I did that a lot with people. I would always take a step back. Like, why do you think you're having this urinary tract infection right now? Why are you having? I understand what causes a urinary tract infection. I want to know why. Why do you think you're having that right now? And invariably, they are able to come up with stress as an answer. Invariably, I'm stressed right now. Well, we don't think about it as our ovaries as the cause of stress, but they are. When they don't work as well, our body is under stress. So, when our estrogen drops, estron's an anti-inflammatory. So we start to get more infections. When progesterone starts to decrease, we don't get we aren't bathed in the metabolites that help us sleep through the night.
Right. And again, what's going through my head, I know we only have a few more minutes, but what's going through my head are all the various doctor's appointments I have had, and they didn't find anything, and it's just, I didn't put it all together until, when the hot flashes and and then I look back on, I say this all the time, I look back on my history and my chart or whatever, patient gateway, whatever it is I have, and saw all the appointments, all the letters, we didn't find this or whatever. And I'm like, well, what is wrong with me? But it was not an ovary conversation, not a perimenopause conversation. It was just like, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah, I kind of want to be on a little rampage right now. I want to go knock on that Dartmouth Medical School door that's around the corner and just be like, you need to tell everyone that we need to always consider ovarian dysfunction in a woman who has ovaries. Always consider that as on the differential of why they're having any symptom that's new and unexplained. And actually, we probably should assume that that's what's going on until proven otherwise.
I like that.
So,
is there a code for it, though? Is there a medical code?
Well,
that
there
they're gonna let
is.
you-
There is. Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
so you can say estrogen deficiency, and I've started to do that. So the only code that you can use to get that insurance will cover for a bone density, for instance, is estrogen deficiency. That, but we typically don't get that until you're 65. But guess what? I know I started getting DEXA bone densities covered because I started to say, oh no, my 50-year-old is estrogen deficient. They don't know that they didn't get their ovaries removed, or maybe they do know that they didn't. But people move around so much, they don't necessarily know if they have ovaries or not, or what's happening. So I know when you're 50, you are estrogen deficient, period. I know everybody is.
That's it.
Almost everybody.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I think I feel very comfortable saying that. But yeah, so estrogen deficiency is a code you could use. But nobody's going to say that when you're still menstruating. That's the problem that's hard, is that they say, well, you can't be that deficient if you're still menstruating.
Okay. Total personal question. Again, another TMI, and I know we're somewhat.
Okay. Yeah.
But okay, so I stayed on the pill for regulation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I'm trying to think. So what happened? I was probably still estrogen deficient, right? Because this is why I'm having all these symptoms, but the pill is still giving me estrogen. Hence, I still kept my period. It was like all this thing. And I was just like, wait, I can't be going through perimenopause. Like everything is still happening. So I took myself off the pill.
Oh, right. So, well, one thing about the pill is that they're synthetic, and they're designed. They're designer drugs, and they're specific around your menstrual cycle and that function. So estrogen, there are a bunch of different estrogens out there, and they will bind to different receptors differently. So like some women, to prevent them from getting breast cancer, will take tamoxifen, which acts like an estrogen in some tissues and acts against, like opposite estrogen in other tissues, binding to the same estrogen receptor though. So when we take these synthetic estrogens in the birth control pills, they're designed to deal with the menstrual cycle, not necessarily the estrogen receptors in our brain the same way, or in our bones or other places. So you can get variability in there depending on which synthetic estrogen you get. And also, like some, we make different kinds of estrogen. It's not just one.
Right.
So, we take that pill and it does what it's designed to do. But I mean, our ovaries are not completely shut down, but when they stop doing any of that stuff, then we start to notice that other symptoms will come up. And like I said, testosterone.
Right.
Let's not forget testosterone.
About that.
Yeah. So yeah, it will come up.
There's a lot. Okay, so I know we are a little bit past our time.
But we did a good job. We didn't talk a lot about symptoms. We have a lot more to talk about.
No, and the next time. Well, okay. First, is there anything else that you want to wrap this part up with, and then I will tell everyone what I.
Sure. Yes. Tell your daughters their information. Google it. They're really good at it, and it's all out there. Tell your daughters, think about it. It matters. They won't, because they don't think that they're ever going to get old, but at least they can't say you didn't tell them.
Okay. All right.
Tell your daughters,
nieces.
Yeah. Anyone you can. Yeah, exactly. Right. The ice cream scooper at the.
Yeah. Why not? Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What I have been looking forward to saying, two things, is one, I've asked Dr. Laura to be our one of our resident experts, and to be able to come back onto the show. And you're such a wealth of information, and the way that you present the information is like we can take it in. It's
Mm.
not like so far over, like, but yes, it's almost by experience. It's like, oh yes, I know that experience, so now I can take it in. And so I really appreciate
Oh,
the
thank you.
way that you're able to let us know. And like I said, I didn't
You
ovaries.
draw it out. You draw it out, Teresa. You're the skilled one in this relationship.
All right. Well, we'll do this together.
Okay.
So, uh, thank you so much for agreeing that you will come back and frequent this podcast, because again, there's so much to know, and there's so much to share with
Yes.
women in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s, in their 60s, right? And you are just amazing at it. So thank you so much. And thank
You're
you for
welcome.
saying yes to coming back frequently. And then I also wanted to mention that we have our menopause and movement coming back on June 22nd. So I want to make sure that everyone knows about this. This is going to be a fantastic time that we get a chance to talk about these things. We'll talk about symptoms, we'll talk about ovaries, but it'll be fun. It will be, one of these things where we might laugh, we might cry, we'll definitely laugh, but we're also going to move, all right? Because part of us, not part of us, we really do need to make sure that we are as strong as we can be. And so, I don't know if you're in the gym lifting up weights. That's not me. But I can move. I like to move my body. I like to dance. And so menopause and movement just seemed like the right thing to do. So June 22nd, between 1:30 and 3:30, it's going to be a phenomenal time. Would love for you to join. And Dr. Laura, I would love for you to join us as well.
I will. I'm working on it. Thank you so much for the invitation.
I love it. That sounds fantastic. All right. So, with that, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for just the responses that I get when people are like, "Oh, I saw your show. I learned about this." I like, thank you for that. Make sure that you like, make sure that you subscribe, but more importantly, make sure you tell your daughters and your nieces and the person at the ice cream store. Make sure that we're talking about this, because it matters. It matters for the short run, it matters for the long run. And that's what we're here for, to make each other better, lift each other up, help us to be stronger. So I want to make sure that you guys take a look at Dr. Laura's website as well. You can find that at reclaimmenopause.com. There's so much information there. Uh, Again, not just about symptoms, but about us, about our bodies. And so we definitely want to make sure that we pay attention to us. All right. So until next week, thank you guys so much for coming in, tuning in, tapping in, subscribing, liking, sharing, all of that great stuff. Dr. Laura, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you next week on Conversations with Teresa.
Bye. Take care.
Bye bye.